Did you hear the recording in progress?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Um, it's funny you say that because I don't really use Zoom that much either. And I was over there beforehand, like a like a crazy person, like an old person, like, oh, look at all these nifty features over here. Wow, you can put on eyebrows and lipstick and all.
Oh, how funny. Maybe we could have done video and then I would have just like put a bunch of filters on.
Okay, so we had that break. Wifey Mama Marine here, Mary Ann Bronza. We had to take a quick break because I have a kid who is supposed to be down for a nap and she was refusing to be down for her nap. So we had to kind of handle that quickly and quietly over in the corner. And I've been drinking a whole lot more water, so honestly, I had to go use the bathroom too. So I used it kind of like as a perfect excuse. But that being said, we were just kind of getting into it's kind of like a cliffhanger. We were kind of getting into your practice engagement and how you had the self-awareness and wherewithal to be like, this isn't right for me, right? And like, even though invitations had been printed and everything, like you still were able to take a step back. And some people, me, were not that bold. So, so
Oh,
happy for
that's
you.
so cute that you said practice engagement because I remember you the questions said something about like practice marriage and I was like, no, I
Yeah.
never had a practice marriage. But yeah, I definitely did have a practice engagement where we had like deposits, everything planned, like invitations were printed and go like getting ready to go out and I just could not. And I mailed the ring back. I was like, nope. And I
Oh.
mailed the I was like, I cannot. And so
How
it
did you know
was,
just in your gut? Like, I'm not asking you to.
uh, so I like everybody in my family over the 2 years. He was a civilian. Not that there's anything wrong with that, in the tone of Seinfeld. But he was a civilian, and he was older. He was like 14 years older than I was, and
Oh my God, this is
met
literally my practice marriage. Like, same scenario.
and
Continue, please. Now I'm
and
enthralled.
we met in Oman. He worked for the oil companies, but he was a tech guy, and so I was like wooed over the money and everything. And like at first, it was like stereotypical, right? It was like the love bombing, all the whatever, and then stuff just started like kind of popping up. And so when we got engaged after 9 months, and I guess like to most people, they're like, that's not too fast. And I guess no, it's not
Hmm.
too fast. But he hadn't met any of my family. I hadn't met any of his family. And so then it was just like the two of us in our bubble, and I had no close friends or family to like give me a sanity
Hmm.
check of like, Marianne, what? And so then he came back. We went back to the States when I was in between posts, and he like met my family. And my dad was absolutely not. No, you're not going to marry my daughter. I met his family. Of course, his family loved me. And so then I was like, you don't get it. You don't know. I love him. And I was, so what? This was like 2005. So I was born in 83. If that was 2005, then I would have been 22.
Oh, I don't do public math. That sounds pretty good to me.
22.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess 22.
pretty
And so
young.
then,
Yeah,
and he was 30,
34,
he was
36.
14 years, yeah, 36, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like robbing the cradle.
And yeah, it's so stupid. And he had two kids, and like his daughters were great. One of his daughters was only a few years younger than me because he had her when
Yeah.
he and his ex-wife had her when in between their junior and senior year of high school.
Oh my
And
God.
so like it was just like so it
But
was just like
I love him.
he's so amazing. And so then like stuff just like started like randomly getting peppered in, and like but like my family right off the bat, they were like, he's controlling, and I said, no, he's not, you don't know. And then I started realizing it, and I asked them, like I found like random emails that he printed off, and I wasn't even searching for them. Like he printed off from his ex-wife's email account. It was, and I read them, and I said, and I, so it was like he got into her email account, and I mean, this is getting messy, but like he somehow got into her email account and he printed them off. And this
Oh
is
my
from
goodness.
years before he and I had met. And so then I was reading them because they weren't hidden, they were just kind of
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And I was asking him, like, wait a minute, did you hit your ex-wife? Like, I'm reading these. Did you hit her? And he's like, no, no, no. And so then finally he's like, okay, it was a little pop on the mouth. Like she was, and I was
Oh,
like, whoa,
she was
what?
out of line. Like,
And so
what?
then I was like, what? And then, like, even then, I was still like, okay. But it was long distance at that point. I wasn't seeing
Mhm.
him every day. We were just like visiting. So it was long distance. But then, as it was long distance, he didn't get to see me every day and he had less control over me and like seeing
Mm,
it me. And so the phone calls became volatile and just yelling. And if I did anything, or like then the name calling, and I'm like, what is
yeah.
happening? Like, this is crazy. And so then eventually I just realized, like, no, this isn't it. And
Hmm.
he even came back to the States like for the wedding, and I was in Virginia still, like getting ready to get out, and I was like, no, it's not it. And so I
Wait, wait,
mailed
wait,
the
wait. So
ring.
he came he came back for the wedding and he didn't know that the wedding was off, or you had told him
Well,
it was
he
off
came
and he didn't
back,
believe you.
so like, because I was getting out of the Marine Corps, right? So this is like
So that like you
Memorial
could
Day. Yeah,
so that
this
you
is
could like be with
Memorial
him.
Day. The
Okay.
wedding was supposed to be August 11th. So this is Memorial Day.
Mm. So you were
And
getting out because you were like, we're gonna start a life together. He's gonna take care of me.
yeah, and
I'm
I'm
moving.
going
Okay.
back to the
To the
Middle
Middle
East.
East.
Could you imagine?
Oh, like I'm going to go be his princess in the Middle East.
Oh my gosh. And so
That,
then
oh,
I
okay.
realized, like, Memorial Day weekend, I'm like, I mean, I realized before, but I finally just like had, I was like, no, I'm not. And so I called him up and I said, we cannot, this is like not working out. Every time I call you or every time we talk, it's just like one thing or another. And it's just like, and it was still like the name calling and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
so, he's like, I'm coming to see you. And I said, no, I don't want to see you. Like, I just want to be done. And I
Mm.
mailed him his ring, and I don't know if
And
that
that
was
was
like the
that.
right way. Yeah, I was 20. Let's see. So that was 2007. So 83. So I would have, right? So if I made, so 24 at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, no, that's it.
Hmm.
And then
Good for
I met
you.
Dan in October at this dive bar that I didn't even want to go. And my friend who only drank champagne. And I sent, like, she and I were in there and they had karaoke, and I was like, okay, yeah, all right, there's karaoke, I'll do this. And then I
Yeah.
met Dan and I was like, him, I want that guy, him. And then
So was it one of those like you were singing karaoke and you locked eyes? Like what song was it? Was it like a moment like that
no,
or
it
like
was no, my friend and I were just looking in the notebook of songs, and then Dan and his friends walked in and I saw him and I said, oh my gosh, he's so cute, him, I want him. And she's like, that guy? And I said, yeah, he's so cute. He's like, and he just looked like the exact opposite of my ex. And so I was like,
uh-huh.
yeah, he's just like a big teddy bear, like he's got like, he's like just looks like this like big like farm dude. I was like, oh, he's so cute, yeah, him. So then for the whole night I tried to, like, the bar was empty, it was a Thursday night, the whole night I
Hmm.
tried to like get him to like get his attention, and I would walk by him. um the place was empty, but I would find a way to like shimmy next to him behind the bar, and or like brush up against his back or something, be like, oh, excuse me, oh, like it's packed, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like, and finally I was in the restroom and there were these other women in there, and I said, there is this guy that I'm trying to get his attention, and um he's just not like looking at me, because his two of his friends said, now I have, now I might have to take a kid break because I have
Yeah.
two kids that are there are no donuts.
We can take a break.
There are no donuts. The difference is my children are 10 and 11, about to be 12 in 2 days. So that's the difference between mine.
No, Nick and I, we were actually talking. We were like, we need to make like a
Donuts?
compilation.
No,
There are no donuts.
Can you make me a hot one?
Daddy's downstairs.
Dad!
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's like go see your dad. I can't do the same. Nick and I were saying the other day, we are like, oh my gosh, we need to make like a compilation, like write it down or like just something of like all the stuff that you never thought you'd say as a parent, but you found yourself saying. For instance,
Yeah.
you're like, why is this in the same sentence? Like, hey, yeah, we've got to like make sure that we rinse your feet off before we put you in your tent for bed tonight. And then we're like, what? Like, 'cause she's sleeping in a tent right now, like for funsies and because we're PCSing,
Yeah,
so like we don't have all our furniture and like why are we washing feet before we what is going on here?
I know. Well, this morning, I don't even know where the donut thing came in because this morning my oldest came downstairs and he's like, why is everybody asleep still? And I said, because there's no school or work today. And he said, did I miss something? And I said, it's Labor Day, it's a holiday. And he said, oh, is there like a surprise donut party? And I said, why would we have a surprise donut party right now? I said, oh my gosh, do you have a... Okay, I may need to take a break right now.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll be here.
I have no idea.
Okay. All right. So we are back. Now I guess we're even like with our kid breaks, which is good. I mean, like that's life, right? This is what we do.
It's always a crisis.
A crisis that you never knew was a crisis with kids. Yeah, like high drama. Um, okay. Okay. So, you and Dan meeting across the bar, shimmying around. And so like many years have passed since then. And so how many years have you guys been married?
What's funny is, so
35?
we got, yeah, we got married May 15th, 2009 in my dad's backyard. And it was really nice because like the ladies from church came over and decorated
Hmm.
it and everything. And then because I had orders to go to the enlisted aid program, and he had just recently re-enlisted, and one of his incentives was to stay in Miramar for an extra year because again, I didn't know that I was going to the enlisted aid program anymore because it took a year for those orders to come to fruition. And so they were
Right.
like, well, we have to do something because it was either that or he was going to go to Japan. And so we're
Hmm.
like, and we weren't even engaged yet. And so then he came back from a deployment in April of 2009. And then it was end of April 2009, then May 15th, 2009, we got married in my dad's backyard. And then September 5th, 2009, we had our big church wedding. So we have like two anniversaries. May 15th is like the one that we
Mm.
celebrate. We acknowledge September 5th, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we have a
and
couple
then,
anniversaries too. We have like when we met and we were like, that's when we really like connected, and then like our courthouse wedding and then our wedding with like our family out on the
yeah,
beach. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it's fun.
So how
And
many
so I
years?
like, yeah. So I know it's been 13. Yeah.
13. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So it's been, I mean, 13 years. Like that's kind of a long time for some people, right? Like it's like, oh, we made it for like 48 hours. We made it for, 2 years. But like, so what would you say has been like the best tip for you keeping your relationship strong and spicy and vibrant, especially, both of you being Marine Corps officers?
Oh my gosh. Well, so we both started off enlisted together, and then we both got selected for warrant officer together.
Hmm.
And we had kids at the same time when we got selected for warrant officer. Um, and I think just like every relationship goes through its ups and downs. And um, we've really relied on our faith. Like there was um, in the obviously like when you first have kids and our two are 18 months apart. So we were just
Okay.
like in the thick of it. And then the unit that we were at in it's CBIRF, Chemical Biological Incident Response Force in Indian Head, Maryland, even though it's technically like a non-deployable unit, it's very high tempo, high
Mhm.
op tempo. And so he and I were like on opposite schedules, and I would be gone for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, come back, and then he'd be gone for a couple of weeks. And so we were just like on revolving doors, high fiving.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that got really, we just kind of like started going through the motions. And so there was a lot of like frustration because for him, he was like, hey, this is working. Like, we're keeping the kids alive. And like, what? And I'm like, no, this is not working. So then,
Not working for me.
no, I was like, no, we're just roommates living in the house with kids. And so we had to like get through that. And then I always tell people, if you want to go through some really good marriage counseling or like marriage boot camp, go to TBS with your husband, because that's
Oh, so
the
y'all went
best
at the
thing.
same time?
Yeah. So
Oh.
our kids went to go live with my brother and his wife, and they had 5 kids, 4 and under, for 6 months.
Oh my God. Oh.
They had her grandmother and then a live-in au pair that we helped pay for, and then
Okay.
Daniel went to preschool, and then we also had them signed up for daycare as well.
Okay.
Like they had like a daycare at the Pro Club. This was in Woodinville, Washington, so a suburb of Seattle. So they have a really nice Pro Club there, and the daycare is full day on the weekends too. So
Oh wow.
we would sign them up we signed them up for the daycare. So like to try to give them as much breaks as possible, because we knew like that's a lot.
Yeah.
And we're super grateful for that. We sent them money every month to take care of them. But it was like, yeah, we know that was rough. And we are eternally grateful. And Dan and we stayed in the barracks, but obviously like separate barracks rooms. But that was good because like we had our own corners. Because like right before TBS, like we just went through. We had like I was like ready to like just like call it. I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. And
Yeah.
then he was like, I'm not. We're not. I'm like, nope, I'm not. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not? You can't just like say no. And then I'm really glad because it's really worked out. And he rallied the troops and like sounded the alarms at church. And then I had people at church go like, you idiot, what are you thinking? Like,
yeah.
And then you find out like you have like these 2 groups of people, right? You have the ones that are like, do whatever makes you feel happy, like whatever is gonna like just go with your gut. And then you have the other ones. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, because I have a call that's like trying to call me.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to make sure that it's not like breaking in. And then you have the ones that are like, Marian, like, let's get down to the root of it.
Right.
What is it? And so that was really helpful. And it's not like, not abusive, not anything like that. It just like, it was, I didn't want it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was,
I mean,
and
there's a lot
so,
of stressors and kids and
yeah,
military.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would have been easy to just be like, I can do this on my own. And so I remember one of our counselors was like, yeah, you could do bad all by yourself, but like, why? Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? And so, and every time, because we've been to a couple of like throughout our marriage, and that's another thing, like marriage counseling is great. Even if you don't think you have a problem, like every once in a while, like just go and just, like go and like, just like touch base or check
Yeah.
in or get like a disinterested third party to like just kind of give you a sanity check. Because but every time I go, I'm like, I'm not doing the 5 love languages. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. I hate it. I hate
What?
it. I hate the 5 love languages
Oh
more than
my
anything.
gosh. Well, you have to explain why now, because that's a pretty strong, bold statement of why
Because
you hate
the
it.
way that they write the 5 love languages it is the way it's written is it's as if the man doesn't do anything around the house, is the way that I read it and interpreted it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm reading it and I'm filling out this questionnaire and I'm like reading the book and stuff, and I'm like, but he does this. Like, he
Yeah.
will put the dishes away. Like, he will do the, like, he'll do that. Like, he does this. I'm like, this is stupid. This is like not what the issues are. This
Yeah.
is not my problem. And I don't know. So I just like, I don't know. Maybe now I could look at it with a different point of view, but I just can't stand the 5 love languages.
All right.
I
There you
can't.
have it, folks.
Um,
I'm gonna make sure I send you the 5 love languages book after this.
please do. Maybe the 6th one. I just heard though that there's like a 6th one, to feel known, and so maybe that's what it is. Maybe
Oh,
it's
to feel
because,
known.
yeah. So maybe it's because that 5 like languages doesn't cover the whole like feeling known.
Okay.
So I think that's a lot of it too, because I've noticed just throughout, especially now, like from my transition from the Marine Corps into retirement, I keep telling Dan, like, I'm like, I don't want to get like lost in the mix. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want it to, I said, I know, like, yeah, we're kind of like in this weird phase of like moving from Okinawa back to the States, getting everything settled, you checking in, me retiring. So I know we're not going to be able to do like the big retirement trip this summer. I said, but I don't want to just get lost in the mix. Like, I don't want it to
Mm-hmm.
just be like this, like, unceremonious, like, all right, let's go. I said, but I know I had my retirement ceremony. I know people came out, like, we celebrated for a day, and that's great. And I'm grateful for that. And it's not like, your wedding day, you get like a wedding week and a bachelorette party and everything.
Oof.
But I said, it's like still like, I said, it was like over 20 years of my life. And I feel like I had like one day to acknowledge it. And then it's like, okay, that's done. And I didn't get like a honeymoon of sorts to
Yeah.
kind of like wrap it all up to really celebrate it. And so that's kind of, I really liked when I heard that the 6th love language is to feel known. I'm like, that resonates more with me than those other 5 love languages, the gift, the acts of service, the whatever, the gifts, or
The
the
physical touch.
words of affirmation, physical
Yeah.
touch. Yeah,
Quality
like
time.
that's,
Yep.
yeah, no, it's like really to feel known. So I think maybe if they write the 6 love languages, I'll buy that.
Yeah, you'll buy that. Fun
Yeah.
fact. I don't know if they did this with you at TBS, but with us at TBS, we had to do like a hip pocket class, like pretend that we're giving a class to our Marines for the first time type of thing, really, really like fun. So anyway, SPC's like, okay, everybody's got to pick a topic. You got to give this quick hip pocket class. Mine was on the 5 love languages. So you can
Oh,
already tell.
really? No, I hate it.
They were all like, I'm sure, all the infantry, like Ura Marines, they were like, oh, are you serious? Like, this is the hip pocket class you're gonna get. And I was like, all right, guys, this is what we've got going on today.
All right, listen up.
Yeah.
Sit, kneel, bend.
pull out your green monsters and get ready to stand by the copy. Here's the terrain model.
That is
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I just know like all the guys with like, the whole like just, big lips in right then, like spitting into the ground. We're just like cringing, like, I miss the old core, I wouldn't
Yeah,
have
the
had to
old
deal with
core
this.
that,
That you
yeah,
were
that
never
you were
part
never
of.
part of.
Yes, yes.
Shut up. Shut up.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh. Okay.
So funny.
So you guys have the 2 boys, right?
Yes.
The two cutie
Daniel and
pie boys.
Michael. Yeah, 10 and 11, soon to be 12 in 2 days.
Okay, so they're definitely at the age where, not to embarrass them if they ever hear this, but like they have to wear deodorant and all that stuff, right? They're like at that like stinky
Yeah.
boy age. Yeah, okay.
And that's the barometer of like puberty, because I try to have like candid but like not explicit conversations about puberty with
Right.
them. And so like uh driving to and from school, um not with other kids in the car, but I said, oh yeah, like puberty is weird. It's not just outside of the body, it's inside of the body too. Like you have these weird hormones that are going on and you're like mad for no reason, but you don't know why you're mad for, you don't know why you're mad, but you're just like upset and you're annoyed. But I said, that's part of puberty too. Like you just like the inside of your body changes. And then it's funny because then it turns into like Daniel, he says, well, I'm already done with puberty because I'm wearing deodorant. And I said, okay. And then Michael says, I'm never going to go through puberty. And I said, so you want to look like that for the rest of your life? Like a 10-year-old? And he's like, yeah. I said, okay. So it's always interesting when we have conversations, but yeah.
Yeah. So like, if there was specific advice that you wanted to give to them before they graduate, have you already given it to them because you're ahead of the game, or is there something like, oh, there's a couple things that I definitely want to make sure I instill in them? Advice, life lessons, overall. I know it's a hard one.
So we try to really instill our faith. We like, it's more than just like going to church every Sunday or like making sure that we pray every night, but we also just tell them like, for us, our faith is really important. And we want that. We're Eastern Orthodox. So Serbian Eastern Orthodox. And I like Eastern Orthodox is really Eastern Orthodox. And then when you have like Serbian or Greek or Antioch or Russian or whatever, like it's all Eastern Orthodox. Some follow different calendars where Christmas is on the 25th or January 7th, depending. But we still like tell them like, but we're Christians, right? And so we're like, you know, you treat everybody as Christ would want you to treat them. You treat everybody with like dignity and respect, regardless of what you think or what other people think that they should be treated like regardless of how they look, regardless of how they act, or regardless of what their beliefs are. Like they may not believe the same thing that we believe, but you're not going to treat them differently, or they may not act the same way that we act, or they may not look the same way that we look, but you're not going to treat them differently. Especially now with like all the everything that's going on with a lot more happening in the LGBTQ community. I hope I said that right.
I think there's the plus on the end. LGBTQ plus. Yes.
Okay. And with more kids becoming more comfortable with expressing themselves like in the schools. And I know this isn't going to be popular with a lot of people in the military, but like we told them, like, even if that's not your belief, or even if that's not like something that someone in church would say, like, that's not your belief, like, you still have to treat people with dignity and respect. You can't ever treat someone differently than how Jesus would treat someone if they saw them. And so that's how we always that's the biggest thing. And so we want to instill that in them, and we do that. I hope we do that like through our actions, and they just see us. And that's what we always want them to see. And then also when they're 18, they have to have a job. So they either have to have a job, go to college, find a trade, or go in the military. They can live in our house, but they have to be doing something in order to stay in our house. If they're in the military or if they're away at college, they're not going to stay in our house. But if they're like at a vocational school, trade school, or whatever, or at a community college, then yes, they can stay in our house.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. And then we just try to show them like just being good people and like contributing citizens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you just said it great. You know, you want them to be good human beings, and you guys are doing an awesome job from what I can see, raising some good young gentlemen, good human beings, contributors to society. No freeloaders laying on your couch doing nothing. That's for sure. Not in the Bronza household.
Thanks. Yeah.
No donuts either, guys.
Yeah, they already got donuts. They get fast food once a week, and so it's like a whole thing. And then I had to like pull out a chart of craving versus hunger, because then Michael was convinced that he was only hungry for
Yeah.
McDonald's. And I said, that is the craving.
I've totally had to bust out Maslow's hierarchy of needs for my daughter and
Uh-huh.
draw it out with like the basic needs and go up the triangle. And yeah, explaining that to a 6-year-old was definitely interesting. But then, then when I just point to I'm like, hey, listen, you want to do this other stuff, but have has everybody eaten? No? Okay. All right. Well, let's start there.
Well, even for a 10-year-old, I even heard about it the next day. He was talking to his friends. He's like, and then she shows me this picture and it has like, this is a craving and this is hungry. But I'm telling her it's not a craving. I'm hungry, but I'm hungry for McDonald's. And I'm like, no, then that's a craving.
Yeah. Oh my
It's really
gosh.
funny.
Well, listen, we'll have to wrap this up because I've totally taken up all your time this afternoon, but I appreciate you taking the time to sit, even though we don't get to be together since I'm on the East Coast and you're on the West Coast, and just sit and chat it up because you just had the best energy, like from the limited amount of time that we were able to be together in Okinawa. You know, when you meet somebody and you're like, oh my God, I love that energy, I love that spark. That was you. I would always just be trying to like drift by y'all's office so I could just hear you and they're like laughing and I'm like, hey.
Every time you'd walk by, we'd be like, I remember you walked by and I felt like we totally got caught. We were looking at the demographics of people because the majority of my office, we shared an office with Motor T. And I shouldn't say the majority, maybe at the time, they were Hispanic. And so they were looking through and they were like, there's no Hispanic officers in this unit. And so we were looking through and there was one officer, like we went through the command profile and there was one officer that was Hispanic. And we're like, one female officer Hispanic. We're like, who's that? And then we were going through and guessing. And I legit said your name and you walked by as I said your name. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. And I said, we're just guessing your ethnicity.
Yeah, and I walked
But
by
we were
like,
trying
oh.
to, hi. I don't know. We were just like, we're trying to guess your ethnicity because they were saying there were no Hispanic officers. And I was like, no, you're absolutely right. Or in the commander in the staff. So we went through the command profile and we spent like a good hour of our time trying to figure out that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and we were at 3rd Marine Division out in Okinawa, and so
Yeah.
like, like thinking of demographics for that, it's like, oh yeah, that'd be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially women. I was just explaining to my sister the
Yeah.
whole restroom situation and how women were just recently integrated into the division headquarters and then down to the regiments and
Yeah.
battalions and so on. And with ADHD, I have ADHD. My kids have ADHD. Her kids have ADHD. She has ADHD. I think everybody has ADHD. But I would tell her, I would, and this is how I've always been, especially as a warrant officer and officer, like I would hold my pee even if I was in the middle of a task and I was like just zoned in and I was about to like pee my pants, I wouldn't care because I'm like, as soon as I move, I'm gonna get in the hallway, I'm gonna start talking to someone, either just like start just talking about nonsense or talking about something that has nothing to do with what my task is. And I said, I don't want to get off track. So I don't want to
Right.
leave my computer and go to the restroom. But then I remembered like at division, I really had to make it a point to like go because there was only the 2 stalls
Yes.
downstairs for women. And then upstairs there were 2.
Anyway, yeah, so the 2 stalls, I mean, that's a problem, right?
Yeah, it's a huge problem. And then what killed me, so the end of when I was leaving there, I remember like it was a whole thing about finding a nursing room for the women, right?
Yeah.
And there was this like these like 2 middle-aged, a major and a master guns, 2 dudes. And they had like the 3rd Marine Division logo and then it said nursing room or nursing room or whatever. And I said, oh, cool. And you could tell that they were like holding it and like, oh. And I
Yeah.
was like, no, it's really cool. Like, that's awesome. And I wanted them to say something. And I was like, that's awesome that we finally have that for women. Because I remember, like, I used to have to find the craziest spots to pump.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, but like, where is it going to go? Like, where we have
Yeah.
to put it up in the break room, and now we have to put a lock on the break room, and they have to like share the break room because these buildings weren't made for nursing rooms. And I said, okay, but it's a DOD instruction that we have nursing rooms for
Right.
women. And I said, is it a DOD instruction for colonels to have bathrooms and showers in their offices? And he's like, no. And I said, well, then why don't you just like change out one of these colonels' offices to be a nursing room?
Right.
And they're like, oh, we can't do that. And I'm like, okay, well then then what's the big deal? You're hanging a sign and putting a lock on the door. Why are you standing around for 10 minutes in the hallway looking at this sign, staring at it like it's like an alien with 7 heads? I'm like, what is the big deal? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, back in my core, now we got to make all these
Yeah.
accommodations. Just the most annoying, like, oh my gosh, we could have a whole conversation about that. When I was getting ready to depart from division, I actually was, I had come off maternity leave and then I was transitioning from division over to Marine Corps Installations Pacific, Mickey Pack, to go be the staff secretary there. And
Okay.
and so I just come off maternity leave, but I'm pumping, and I had gotten the LVs this time, the LV Stride, which is covered by TRICARE now, because it's not completely wireless, but it's pretty wireless. It has like a little hub that you can just clip onto your hip, and like the cups go in your bra and everything like that. Because I was like, if I have this, I'll be more likely, much like you, to stay on task, not get distracted, and then also not miss out on my pumping sessions because the cups are already in there, and I'm just doing it right at my desk. Well,
Right.
I, finally, get up, meander to the bathroom, and by the 2 bathrooms is, obviously where that lactation room is. And there were 2 civilians in there. And I was like, hold on a second. Why are 2 civilian males in the lactation room? So I go in and I'm like, hey, gentlemen, like, what's going on here? They're like, oh, we had to find a place to like do some network stuff, to, work the computers. We need a place where we can like have service and do this thing. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, sounds good. And I walk away, and but then I thought about it and I was like, hold on a second. They're just in there using this clearly marked sign. It was this massive red sign.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Massive red sign that says
Yeah.
lactation room, like lactating mothers only, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's the principle of the matter, right? Like, just because it's not in use right then doesn't mean that it's now your room to like go and fuck around in, regardless of what the reason is.
Right.
And I was like, I am in a position where I am certain of myself. I know what the policy is. I know what the instruction is. I'm an officer, and I'm okay with going and telling somebody to essentially go fuck off and go
Yeah.
get your life together. And there were
Yeah.
other females in the building that would need that would probably just say, oh, I don't want to bother anybody, and just kind of walk away and, go to the bathroom and, do what they shouldn't have to do. So I
Right.
turned back around and went and saw the guys. I was like, excuse me, gentlemen, like this is a lactation room. Like, you need to find somewhere else to operate. They're like, well, it won't be that much longer. And I was like, this is the instruction. This is clearly what it is for. Please find somewhere else to operate. And so they're like, but they moved, right? Because what else are you going to say?
Right.
Like, what else are you going to say?
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. And I always think about that too. I always think about like the young women or the junior Marines.
Hey Puffins, unfortunately we had some technical difficulties with the last portion of the interview, but I still wanted to go ahead and publish everything else because it was just awesome talking with Marianne. I'm super happy that I had the opportunity to interview her, and she is a hoot if you ever get the chance to talk with her. A true wifey mama Marine, puffling to puffin. Hey Puffins, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to go check out our website, wifeymamamarine.com, and go follow, like, share, subscribe on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We'd love to hear from you, and let's be sure to connect. Also, feel free to nominate anyone that you think might be a good person to interview next, or submit any type of questions for an upcoming interview. Hope to hear from you soon.